Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Global leaders meet in Egypt as Gaza ceasefire encourages peace efforts. Former UK Prime Minister Blair is tipped to lead the transitional board. Trump's indirect Tomahawk missile threat to Russia sparks a war of words. Russia's Security Council head Medvedev, he warns of a fallout. India and Canada pledge stronger trade, tech and energy ties as the Canadian Foreign Minister Anand calls on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. The Mongolian President Kurel Ukna begins a 4-day visit to India. The 2025 Nobel Prize for Economics honors a trio of economists from the United States and France for explaining innovation-driven economic growth. Our top story, the Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt has drawn over 20 world leaders. Co-hosted by the US President Donald Trump and the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, this summit follows a landmark ceasefire deal that saw Hamas release all surviving Israeli hostages and Israel beginning to free around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. At the heart of the plan is a proposed board of peace to oversee Gaza's transition, with the former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair floated as its potential head. As aid begins flowing in and tensions ease, the region stands at a crossroads between managed calm and the long fight for sovereignty. Here's the report. The Gaza peace plan, unveiled by US President Donald Trump in late September 2025, has made significant strides. Hamas released all 20 surviving Israeli hostages on Monday, marking the end of a 2-year ordeal that began with the October 7, 2023 attacks. Israel is releasing approximately 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 250 serving life sentences and another 1,700 detained since the 2023 attacks. Israel halted its bombing campaign as part of the US brokered truce. The United States is the lead mediator, Qatar and Turkey key mediators, Egypt seen as a regional anchor. Israel, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are parties to the ceasefire. Arab nations and many other nations have supported the deal.
And 2 weeks ago, you succeeded in doing something that no one believed was possible. You brought most of the Arab world, you brought most of the world behind your proposal to free the hostages and end the war.
Tehran too has welcomed the peace initiative, though it has in the past called on the international community to prevent Israel from violating its obligations in Gaza under the deal.
We attach great importance and welcome any action that truly helps reduce the pain and suffering of the people of Palestine, puts an end to the genocide, and brings the occupation to close.
The Egypt Peace Summit, led by Presidents Trump and el-Sisi, have gathered 20-plus leaders to finalize Gaza's transition plan. Trump has proposed a board of peace to oversee stability, naming Tony Blair as a possible head. Blair's appointment isn't confirmed, and he faces scrutiny over his Middle East legacy and potential UK taxpayer costs. Critics argue the plan leans more towards managed peace and control than genuine sovereignty for Gaza. Implementation hurdles include ensuring Israel and Hamas comply with the terms, balancing humanitarian aid with security oversight, and gaining broader support for Palestinian statehood. Bureau Report, DD India. 20 Israeli hostages were released on Monday after more than 2 years in captivity in Gaza as part of a ceasefire deal with Hamas. Nearly 2,000 Palestinians were also freed from Israeli detention under the same agreement. The US President Donald Trump, addressing the Israeli parliament, called it a historic dawn of the new Middle East. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister has hailed Trump as the greatest friend that Israel has ever had.
October 13th will go down in history as one of the most important dates towards securing a path to peace in the Israel-Gaza conflict. Under a US-brokered ceasefire deal, Hamas handed over all 20 surviving hostages to Israel on Monday. For US President Donald Trump, it was the historic dawn of a new Middle East. Trump addressed Israeli Knesset, thereby becoming the fourth US president to address the Israeli parliament. Trump called it a historic dawn of a new Middle East.
This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
US President Donald Trump also met with the families of the hostages at the Knesset in Jerusalem. On his part, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked Trump for his indispensable role in securing the release of the Israeli hostages.
We welcome you here to thank you for your pivotal leadership in putting forward a proposal that got the backing of almost the entire world. A proposal that brings all our hostages home. A proposal that ends the war by achieving all our objectives. A proposal that opens the door to an historic expansion of peace in our region and beyond our region.
In Tel Aviv, thousands of people cheered, hugged and wept in Hostages Square as they watched convoys carrying Israeli hostages held captive in Gaza make their way back to home soil. On the other hand, buses carrying Palestinians released from Israeli prisons as part of the accord also arrived in Gaza. The conflict started after militants seized 251 hostages during Hamas's unprecedented attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, which led to the deaths of 1,219 people, most of them civilians. Most of those abducted were released in successive prisoner exchanges. The release of hostages and the freeing of Palestinian detainees form a critical aspect of the first phase of the ceasefire accord. With Fuzail Ahmed, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
The release of 20 Israeli hostages marked an important milestone in efforts to achieve peace in West Asia. Many world leaders hope that this will lead to lasting stability in the region. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India supports President Trump's sincere efforts to bring peace to the region.
A sigh of relief, a moment of joy, and time to celebrate as the world watched the release of 20 remaining surviving hostages in Gaza from the Hamas's captivity on Monday. For many world leaders, peace has now become possible with the release of these hostages. Some paid tributes to the courage of hostages' families, while other world leaders hoped it will alleviate the suffering of the people. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in a statement, said, "I very much welcome the release of the Israeli hostages held in Gaza. I am profoundly relieved that they have regained their freedom. I urge all parties to build on this momentum and to honor their commitments under the ceasefire to end the nightmare in Gaza. The UN is working to support all efforts to end the conflict in Gaza and alleviate the suffering of civilians." While welcoming the release of the hostages, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he supports President Trump's efforts to bring peace to the region. Prime Minister Modi wrote that we welcome the release of all hostages after over 2 years of captivity. Their freedom stands as a tribute to the courage of their families, the unwavering peace efforts of President Trump, and the strong resolve of Prime Minister Netanyahu. We support President Trump's sincere efforts to bring peace to the region. French President Emmanuel Macron said that with their release, peace becomes possible for Israel, for Gaza, and for the region. France will be involved in every stage of President Trump's plan, alongside the Arab partners it helped mobilize. But for now, let there be joy. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that I reiterate my thanks to the tireless diplomatic efforts of the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. It is now crucial that we work together to implement President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. Commitment to this plan from all parties will be essential to ending the war and building the foundations for a sustainable path to a long-term peace. The UK will support the crucial next stage of talks to ensure the implementation of the peace plan. Beijing, too, welcomed the release of hostages by the Hamas as part of a Gaza ceasefire deal.
China welcomes and supports all efforts conducive to restoring peace and alleviating the humanitarian crisis. The pressing priority now is to achieve a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire in Gaza as soon as possible to effectively ease the humanitarian crisis and restore regional stability.
In Gaza too, the ceasefire has brought relief. Trump has said he has had guarantees from both the sides and other key regional players about the initial phase of the deal, and the future stages, adding a new governing body for Gaza, would be established very quickly. Hussain Ahmed's report, DD India.
Meanwhile, fierce clashes broke out in Gaza City between Hamas forces and armed members of a powerful local clan, leaving several people dead and dozens injured. Witnesses reported heavy gunfire near a hospital in the southern part of the city as masked fighters exchanged fire with Hamas security units. The fighting marks one of the most violent internal confrontations in Gaza since the end of the major Israeli operations in the enclave. But authorities said that the operation was aimed at restoring order and warned that any armed activity outside the framework of official security forces would be dealt with firmly. Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Monday that the fate of the Nepali student Bipin Joshi, who was taken hostage by Hamas during the October 2023 attacks in Israel, remains uncertain. Israeli authorities informed Nepali officials and Joshi's family as well during a virtual meeting that his name was not included in the list of hostages to be released in the first phase of the Middle East peace plan. Joshi, who had gone to Israel under Nepal's Learn and Earn program, was among several foreign nationals abducted by Hamas nearly 2 years ago. However, according to sources, Hamas has claimed that 4 hostages, including Bipin Joshi, were killed in Israeli airstrikes. At least 42 people were killed in a bus crash in a mountainous region of northern South Africa. The crash took place on the N1 highway near Makhado, which is in Limpopo province. This is what a statement has said, and many of the travelers were citizens of Zimbabwe and Malawi who were en route to their home countries from the city of Quebec in Eastern Cape. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Lecornu unveils a new cabinet. Macron urges unity to halt France's political free fall. 5 dead in Pakistan highway clash as Islamist group protests against the Gaza ceasefire deal. And Madagascar's Gen Z uprising. The president, Rajoelina, has reportedly fled the country.
There's so many invaluable artifacts that the British have taken from our country. They robbed us of our self-respect. They robbed us of our honor. Loot was never innocent. It was painful.
The word loot, that was stolen from India too.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Tensions are rising once again between the United States and Russia after the US announced its plan to supply long-range Tomahawk missiles, a move that could redefine the dynamics of the ongoing conflict and also spark fresh diplomatic friction. Here's the report.
Russia and the United States are locked in another war of words after US President Donald Trump announced he may offer long-range Tomahawk missiles to Kyiv if Russian President Vladimir Putin does not end the conflict in Ukraine.
And I might talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send them Tomahawks. I may say that. The Tomahawk is an incredible weapon, very offensive weapon. And honestly, Russia does not need that. They don't need that. Yeah, I might tell them that if the war is not settled, that we may very well do it. We may not, but we may do it.
The announcement drew sharp criticism from Moscow. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev warned that supplying US Tomahawks to Ukraine could end badly for everyone, especially for President Trump himself. Russian officials, however, clarified that there are no current plans for a call between Presidents Putin and Trump following the US leader's remarks. Meanwhile, the European Union has backed the potential delivery of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, calling it a step that would make Kyiv stronger and Moscow weaker.
They are really playing with fire, and they're really escalating here. So that's why we need to be stronger and we need to be ready when it comes to our own defense. We welcome all the tools that make Ukraine stronger and Russia weaker.
As discussions over the Tomahawk missiles continue, the world watches closely, wondering whether their deployment will shift the balance on the battlefield or further deepen the divide between Washington and Moscow. Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
After days of uncertainty, the French President Emmanuel Macron has unveiled a new cabinet under Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, which is a make-or-break attempt, in fact, to steer the nation out of its deepening political crisis. The reshuffle comes amid growing divisions in Parliament and also public discontent over austerity and pension reforms. Macron has stepped in, asserting that he is going to remain in office, and he has urged all political forces to choose stability over brinkmanship.
France's political stage is set for yet another tense episode. Amid weeks of turmoil, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has unveiled a new cabinet after intense negotiations, a move aimed at halting the nation's political freefall. Adding wit to the moment, President Emmanuel Macron on Monday reaffirmed that he will stay in office, urging all political forces to prioritize stability over brinkmanship.
It is everyone's duty to work towards stability, not to gamble on instability. I'm here in my role as guarantor of institutions, the role I exercised last week. Like all French people, I have seen many comments that have not been commensurate with the events, and I ask everyone to pull themselves together and work with rigor and respect.
The reshuffled lineup, a blend of continuity and change, marks Le Cornu's second attempt at forging unity in a fractured parliament. Jean-Noël Barrot retains his post as foreign minister, while outgoing Labour Minister Catherine Vautrin moves to defence. Macron loyalist Roland Lescure now helms the economy ministry, and Paris police chief Laurent Nunez takes over the interior portfolio. With a critical austerity budget looming, the new team faces an uphill battle to survive. The left threatens to bring down the government unless Le Cornu reverses the controversial pension reform that raised the retirement age. The right pledges only conditional support, while the far-right National Rally vows outright opposition.
This new team has only one goal, which is to save Emmanuel Macron and enable his camp, politically speaking, of course, to remain in power at all costs. I continue to say this morning that none of this is serious. This is also the feeling expressed by many French people this morning who have seen the news and who have seen this government. And we will table a motion of no confidence in the next few hours, because once again, the French people today are expecting a political break.
Le Cornu's new government stands on fragile ground, a symbol of France's broader political fragmentation. Whether this cabinet can govern or merely survive may well define the trajectory of French politics ahead of 2027. Nishoi Roy's report for DD India.
Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina has fled the country. Amid mass youth-led protests demanding his resignation, opposition leaders and other officials have said so on Monday. Well, weeks of unrest over water and power shortages had escalated into a nationwide movement against corruption and poor governance, with thousands of demonstrators gathering in the capital, Antananarivo. Reports also suggest that Rajoelina departed on a French military plane after elite army units defected and also joined protests over the weekend. So with the president absent, the Senate leader is expected to assume interim authority until elections are held in the island nation, where widespread poverty and discontent have fueled the youth-driven uprising. India and Canada are back on the diplomatic fast track, in fact. Now, on Monday, New Delhi had witnessed a significant thaw in bilateral ties as both nations agreed on a forward-looking roadmap to deepen cooperation across key sectors, from trade and investment to civil nuclear collaboration and artificial intelligence. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay has the report.
Visiting Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Monday. PM Modi welcomed Anand's visit as a catalyst for renewed momentum, reflecting on their productive engagement earlier this year at the G7 summit in Canada, where Prime Minister Modi met Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Earlier, Minister Anand held bilateral talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, marking a turning point in relations that had undergone months of recalibration. The meeting signaled a fresh start rooted in mutual respect and shared democratic values.
India-Canada bilateral relations have been steadily progressing in the last few months. We are working to restore and reinvigorate the mechanisms necessary to advance our partnership. As Prime Minister Modi noted during his meeting with Prime Minister Carney in Kananaskis, India's approach is to move forward with a positive mindset. This morning, you have met the Prime Minister. You have heard from him personally about our vision of cooperation and how best to realize it.
A joint statement issued by both the nations outlined a comprehensive plan to deepen cooperation across strategic, economic, technological, and security domains.
Both sides, for our meeting today, have prepared an ambitious roadmap to advance our cooperation in various domains, including trade, investment, agriculture, science and technology, civil nuclear collaboration, AI, critical minerals, and energy. I'm glad that the two High Commissioners have assumed their responsibilities in our respective capitals and are part of today's meeting.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal also met with the visiting Canadian Foreign Minister. The two leaders discussed collaboration in key sectors including energy, technology and food security. Minister Goyal reiterated India's readiness to reinvigorate trade and economic relations with Canada, anchored in mutual trust and respect. At the global stage, India and Canada reaffirmed their commitment to multilateralism, Indo-Pacific cooperation and the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The message from this visit is clear. Both the nations are ready to turn the page and write a new chapter of pragmatic, stable and strategic partnership. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India.
The Mongolian President Kurel Suk Ukhna is in India on a 4-day state visit from today until October 16 at the invitation of the President Draupadi Murmu. This marks his first visit to India as head of state. He was warmly received at New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport by the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Muralidhar Mohol, with a ceremonial welcome. The occasion featured vibrant cultural performances followed by a formal guard of honor in his recognition. During the visit, President Murmu will meet her Mongolian counterpart and host a banquet in his honor. President Kurel Suk Ukhna will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and review the entire gamut of bilateral relations. Diplomatic relations between India and Mongolia were established in 1955. Over the past 7 decades, the two countries have developed a close and multifaceted partnership anchored in shared cultural and spiritual links and democratic values. This is President's first visit to India in his capacity as head of state of Mongolia. The External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on the visiting Mongolian president in New Delhi. On Monday, in a social media post, the EAM said that he appreciates his warm sentiments on advancing as spiritual neighbors and Global South members and also mutual strategic partnership. The EAM further said that he was confident that the visiting president's talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chart a forward-looking course for the next decade of friendship between the two countries. India participated in the senior officials meeting of the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Mid-Term Ministerial in Kampala on Monday, expressing support for Uganda's leadership of the NAM. The Secretary West, Sibi George, led the Indian delegation at the SOM of the 19th Non-Aligned Movement. It's a mid-term ministerial meeting which was presided over by Uganda's Minister of Foreign Affairs, General Odongo JJ. George also met General Odongo JJ and Uganda's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Oryem Henry Okello. And this is at the senior officials meeting of the 19th NAM midterm ministerial in Kampala. The Union Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirtivardhan Singh, will lead the Indian delegation at the 19th midterm ministerial of the Non-Aligned Movement in Kampala, Uganda. It's scheduled from the 15th of October to the 16th of October, and during this visit, Singh will be expected to meet with the Ugandan leadership and also his counterparts from NAM member states. At least 5 people were killed when Pakistani police clashed with members of a hardline Islamist group. This is at an anti-Israel protest on the country's busiest highway. Police have said so. The far-right Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, whose massive and often violent street protests have been a thorn in the side of multiple Pakistani governments, had called for this march ahead of the US President Donald Trump's announcement last week of a ceasefire deal to end the Gaza war. The march from the eastern metropolis of Lahore to the capital Islamabad, a nearly 400-kilometer walk along the historic Grand Trunk Road, started on Friday and has led to several clashes with the police, who have tried to slow its movement. On Monday, police said that they had launched an operation to disperse hundreds of protesters in the town of Muridke, when the group's supporters opened fire on officers and set over 40 vehicles on fire, in clashes that lasted for over 3 hours. Those killed included a police officer, 3 protesters and a bystander, police said in a statement. Dozens on both sides were injured, it added. Scores of protesters have also been arrested. This is what the police have said. Now, the entry and exit routes to the capital were blocked by authorities since the march started, and they were partially reopened on Monday. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll discuss the day after of the Gaza peace plan with an expert. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. Global leaders meet in Egypt as the Gaza ceasefire encourages peace efforts. The former UK Prime Minister, Tony Blair, is tipped to lead a transitional board. Trump's indirect Tomahawk missile threat to Russia sparks a war of words. Russia's Security Council head, Medvedev, he warns of a fallout. India and Canada pledge stronger trade, tech and energy ties as the Canadian Foreign Minister Anand calls on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. The Mongolian President Kurel Sok Ukna begins a 4-day visit to India. Well, let's unpack the Gaza peace plan, its breakthroughs, its fault lines and future risks. Joining us is Ambassador S.R. Tayal. He's a former senior diplomat. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for being with us. Now, what do you read into this proposed board of peace? What sort of balance can it provide to the Palestinian aspirations for sovereignty, self-governance? And then there's always the fear of Israeli interference.
I think the Palestinian aspiration for a separate Palestine as a country and the two-state solution which India and more than 145 countries of the world want, that is still in a distant horizon. What we and the world is heaving a sigh of relief is that the 2 years of carnage after 7th October 2023 of the terrible terrorist attack by Hamas and 1,500 people were killed, and after that 60,000-70,000 Gazans have died because of the war, etc. That has come to an end. So it is a first step towards peace in the region, and the template is very clearly written in the 20-point plan of President Donald Trump, which he shared with the world on 29 September.
Yes.
And we need to be very clear that the entire Arab world, all the important countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, non-Arab Turkey, other Islamic countries, they are fully on board with that.
Okay.
So we just should look at the 20-point plan of President Trump and what are the steps. So first step has been taken that the 20 living hostages have been released. There is some quibbling about the 30 bodies that Hamas is saying bodies are not known where they are, but that is a detail. The major issue which will now in Sharm el-Sheikh, there is a summit. 20 world leaders are there. Our MOS is also there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had been invited, but he had other engagements.
Yes.
The two important things which need to come out from the Sharm el-Sheikh is, one, the international stabilization force. Because the whole idea is that Hamas will have no role in the governance of Gaza.
Yes.
And all the Hamas operatives will be disarmed. Either they should surrender, or if they do not, then they should be provided safe passage to some other country.
Yes, indeed. But Ambassador Tayal, are there any enough safeguards in place in this 20-point program to, ensure the compliance of both Israel and Hamas?
The safeguards ultimately, Israel can also violate and Hamas can also violate. But perhaps the people of Gaza also are now fed up with all that suffering which they have gone through in the last 2 years. And perhaps the support to Hamas within Gaza is very weak. And if all the Arab countries who also have actually been quite against Hamas historically because of different reasons, political convictions, etc., they are on board, then Hamas is totally isolated. And Iran also has been practically its capacity to aid Hamas, which he had been doing for decades. That is also decapitated. Hezbollah is finished in Lebanon, Syria, Bashar's regime is gone. So Israel and United States have worked in tandem.
Okay.
And one by one, they have destroyed all the supporters of Hamas which were outside Gaza. So Hamas, I think, has no option. And the people of Palestine, including Gaza, should move forward on this 20-point plan, have some reconstruction. There is an international stabilization force. Then, of course, there is a development, temporary transitional governance development board of peace, international board of peace, which will be chaired by President Trump himself.
Right.
That how much he is investing, his own prestige, his own power, his own influence in this. One should be optimistic, as our statements and our Prime Minister's tweets and statements clearly.
Yes, indeed. Ambassador Tayal, also humanitarian aid is going to obviously start coming in greater force. And then there's the reconstruction also. Is this going to lead to some sort of dependency on donor countries rather than, the development of local institutions within Gaza?
See, Palestine has always been dependent on donor countries and UNRWA, etc. They don't have much of economy, and now so much has been destroyed. The reconstruction itself will take a huge amount of aid. So we are seeing years of reconstruction before Gaza comes to a stage before what it was before October 2023. It will be a very long haul, but these are the first steps towards peace in Gaza, reconstruction of Gaza, and some kind of eventual peace in whole of Palestine, West Bank, for instance. Israel has been expanding its settlements in West Bank. What is the situation there? Is that also part of some agreement? Because it's very clear that many political parties which are far right in Israel, they do not want a two-state solution at all.
Yes, indeed.
And Prime Minister Netanyahu's government depends on their support. So there are too many balls in the air. One should perhaps look too far at a two-state solution. If on a scale of 1 to 10, two-state solution, two states, Palestine and Israel staying side by side, if on that scale that is 10, we are practically at 0 or 1. So we should gradually, the entire world should help in this process.
So how is the world going to help at this Sharm el-Sheikh summit? Would you see that, there are regional powers, even global powers playing a financing role in Gaza's recovery to start with? And would you see some competing interests at play?
Yes, certainly the major countries, all the major rich Arab countries are there. Prince Salman is there, UAE is there, Turkey. So the composition of international stabilization force, because that will mean some kind of armed forces which will disarm Hamas and sort of train Palestinian policemen. That is one very important part of as we go forward in the coming weeks. And then temporary transitional governance, because the aid has started flowing, how it will be distributed, who will control the distribution, who will regulate water, electricity, etc. So the municipal services have to come back, and for that some kind of a transitional governance is required, which will consist mainly of the local Palestinians, but they have to be non-Hamas as far as Israel is concerned. So there are too many details, but they can all be worked out if there is some sincerity on the part of all sides. But Hamas, I would think, that is in a very weak position. It would have lost a lot of support within Gaza because of the terrible tragedy which has struck that land of 2 million people. 60, 70,000 people have died, and we see on the television what kind of destruction they've gone through.
Indeed.
But construction will be a long haul, which will require a lot of money and finances. So international aid will need to step up. The French president is there, British, UK Prime Minister is there. So a lot of aid will come, but it will take time. It will be a long haul. But whatever is happening today is a very good news for Palestine, for West Asia, and for the world.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador S.R. Thayal, former senior diplomat. Thank you for unpacking that and putting that into context for us.
Thank
now,
you.
still to come. In fact, let's continue. India has sent the Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, as the special envoy to the Gaza Peace Summit, which is being held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. The minister met the US President Donald Trump during the Gaza Peace Summit, and the minister also met Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi during the Peace Summit. The Union Minister said that Egypt and India share a significant and vibrant strategic partnership, adding that the summit underscores the global commitment to peace and dialogue. And he further said that India reaffirms its unwavering dedication to peace, stability and enduring security within the Middle East. The United Arab Emirates has announced a $10 million contribution to strengthen community resilience against natural disasters across Asia and the Pacific. This initiative was launched through the UAE Aid Agency, and it will support the Emirates Nature WWF in partnership with the World Wildlife Fund. The Worldwide Fund, I beg your pardon, for Nature. The Worldwide Fund for Nature. To implement the Community Resilience to Natural Disasters Program. So the Community Resilience to Natural Disasters Program, what does it do? It focuses on three key pillars: restoring natural protective systems such as mangrove forests and coral reefs, also promoting sustainable livelihoods through ecotourism and also income diversification, and then strengthening community preparedness, and this is through early warning systems. Ahead of the UN's COP30 climate summit in Brazil this November, global leaders have gathered in Brasilia for the pre-COP30 ministerial roundtable to shape this agenda. Representing India, the Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav urged nations to turn climate pledges into real-world action. He called for COP30 to be the COP of adaptation, stressing inclusive progress, stronger climate finance, and reaffirming India's commitment as well to cooperative global solutions. Still to come here on DD India News Hour, the Government of India's flagship initiative to improve multimodal infrastructure connectivity, PM Gati Shakti. It's a national master plan completing 4 successful years today. The holy relics of Lord Buddha formally enshrined in Kalmykia in Russia. Nobel Prize for Economic Sciences for 2025 was announced, and the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences declared the award on October 13th, marking the final prize of this year's Nobel season. Joel Mocker, Philippe Aghion and Peter Howitt have won the 2025 Nobel Economics Prize for having explained innovation-driven economic growth. The prestigious award is formally known as the Sverige Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel, and it carries a prize of 11 million Swedish crowns for the winners. The Government of India's flagship initiative to improve multimodal infrastructure connectivity, PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, completed 4 successful years. On Monday, the occasion was marked by the launch of multiple new initiatives that would provide further boost to Gati Shakti for better coordination and planning amongst government departments and state governments. The event, organized in New Delhi, was attended by India's Minister of Trade and Commerce, Piyush Goyal, along with several senior officers of various ministries. During his address, Minister Goyal said that this scheme is transcending every sector of government and governance. In an event of profound spiritual and cultural significance, the holy relics of Lord Buddha, they were formally enshrined in Kalmykia in Russia, marking the first ever exposition of these sacred artifacts in the Russian Republic. The day was graced with the opening of 3 unique exhibitions by Uttar Pradesh Deputy Chief Minister Prasar Bharati and head of the Republic of Kalmykia in Elista, Batu Kashikov. The exposition symbolizes the deep-rooted spiritual connection between India and Russia. The heads of the Republic of Kalmykia, along with the ministers, met the Indian delegation, and in that meeting, both sides agreed to strengthen bilateral relations, people-to-people connections, as well as they are going to open new areas of cooperation. Prasar Bharati also visited the Buddhist park in Elista and assured the governor of Kalmykia that India will provide a Buddha statue and contribute to providing its construction material. The initiative aims to provide and to promote deeper awareness of Indian culture among Russians. Later in the day, the Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh inspected the Kalmykia University Museum, and he praised the struggles undertaken in the journey of development by the people of Kalmykia. The university's director and the Minister for Culture of Kalmykia welcomed the Indian delegation. The Baps Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi, the Middle East's first traditional Hindu stone temple, will host Diwali celebrations from October 18 with main festivities on Monday, October 20, 2025. Visitors will be welcomed with cultural programs, devotional events and sacred rituals. Celebrations begin on October 18 with Dhanteras, featuring an online Dhan Puja for families to join from home. On Diwali Day, October 20, the mandir will open exclusively for celebrations with a special Diwali Puja and prior registration. Anakut will be observed on October 22, offering the first meal of the new year to deities and Thanksgiving. Operated by Baps Swami Narayan Sanstha under Mahant Swami Maharaj, the temple is part of a global fellowship with over 1 million members, 80,000 volunteers and 5,025 centers. The world's biggest entertainment content market, MIPCOM 2025, has kicked off in Cannes in France, bringing together creators, producers and buyers from across the world. And this year, India shines under the spotlight of the Bharat wave, which is growing. It's growing storytelling. It's a power and also the strong industry presence there. India is attracting global investors and partners like never before. Rohini Gosavi has this report.
MIPCOM is the world's largest entertainment content market, which has been held every October in Cannes since 1985. The event brings together the global entertainment industry under one roof. from TV networks and OTT platforms to production houses and distributors. This year, participants from over 100 countries have gathered to buy, sell and collaborate on content that shapes what the world watches next.
MIPCOM is one of the most important markets for the entertainment and content business, primarily because the whole world arrives here. And as one of the largest producers of entertainment content, India, and for people like us who create animation stories, it becomes very vital to take our content and meet other customers, broadcasters, streamers.
India continues to make a strong mark at MIPCOM 2025, showcasing its growing creative economy and expanding global partnerships. Under the initiative of Bharat Wave, India's focus is on the stories that connect local roots with global audiences.
Indians have been amazing, Indian studios have been amazing in adapting to these new technologies. The future is going to be very bright for Indian creators and Indian writers as well as Indian studios. I think the day is not far when we will have a solid content coming out of India for global market.
The Indian Pavilion at MIPCOM highlights co-production opportunities, media tech advancements and cross-border collaboration, showing why India has become a preferred destination for global buyers and investors seeking quality content and growth.
This occasion where India is here, present as India's presence as to promote its own format of bazaar, Waves Bazaar. So this is also a good opportunity to attract foreign visitors to India.
With India emerging as one of the fastest growing entertainment markets, international studios, producers and investors are increasingly seeing opportunities here. The Indian market is attracting global buyers with diverse stories, regional content and innovative formats.
We've been very interested in India because the market is very huge, and what we want to do is to co-produce with other countries, and India has a lot of potential. They do great 3D, so you do great 3D, and as a Japanese company, you want to see how there could be a bridge between both cultures to create a new kind of animation.
With over 100 countries participating, MIPCOM is not just a marketplace. It's a reflection of where the global entertainment industry is heading. And India's presence here sends a clear message: the next big stories and investments are rising from Bharat. From the red carpet of Cannes to the busy hall of MIPCOM, India's stories are reaching the world in new scale. With movies, series, animation and 8K on display, Bharat Wave is making its mark globally. This is Rohini Gosavi in Cannes for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you the sports news. And India ended day 4 firmly on top of the Delhi test, needing just 58 runs more for victory and seal the series 2-0. Campbell and Hope's centuries kept West Indies fighting early on the day, but India's bowlers, led by Jadeja, Siraj and Bumrah, triggered a late collapse. However, Justin Greaves and Jayden Seales stitched together a stubborn 79 runs partnership for the last wicket in 22 overs. Can you imagine? And they stretched the lead to 120 before Bumrah ended the innings at 390 runs. In pursuit of 121 runs, Rahul and Sai Sudarshan steadied the chase after Jaiswal's early dismissal, leaving India poised for a comfortable victory perhaps on day 5. The Sports Minister of India, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, on Monday, he felicitated the Paris Olympics medalists at a special ceremony in New Delhi. A total of 117 Indian athletes made up the contingent that went on the hunt for medals and sporting immortality at Paris 2024 Olympics. In all, India won 6 medals, a silver and also 5 bronze medals. Manu Bhaker created history by becoming the first Indian to win 2 medals at a single edition of the Olympics after she clinched 2 bronze medals. Swapnil Kusale added a 3rd medal in shooting, and this is to make India's biggest haul, in fact, in the sport in a single edition of the Olympics. The Indian men's hockey team matched their Tokyo 2020 success with a bronze in Paris as well. And Neeraj Chopra became the first successful individual Olympian to have claimed both a gold as well as a silver. This time he claimed the silver medal in the javelin throw. In 2020, he had got the gold. But later, Aman Sherawat became India's youngest Olympic medalist when he won the bronze in wrestling. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app, available in Android and iOS. So you can scan the QR code on your screens and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.